You can smell the fear from the establishment and the mainstream parties, whether it be about the news that the local elections are getting cancelled or just Labour MPs talking about reform. You can smell the fear. In today's video, we have Andy Burnham spewing dribble on a live TV show on the BBC, and rightly then gets called out for his nonsense. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and join our fast-growing community. So have a watch of this.
Sometimes asylum seekers arriving to live in their communities where there isn't the right infrastructure, there isn't right support. In your patch in Altrincham in Cheshire, there's suddenly a new asylum hotel with 300 people arriving. Do you think there's a political risk for your party on this issue?
Well, always, but I have great confidence in Yvette Cooper. She is one of the most experienced and knowledgeable ministers that there is. You know, she's one of the best politicians of our era, and what she laid out in the interview is exactly what she would be doing. She talked about the agreements that have to be put in place with other countries. That's the hard work. I did it in the Blair government. You have to be on the phone to ministers in other governments.
So you were actually immigration minister at that point, weren't you?
I was, and this is the thing, and this, let me get to reform, because Susanna rightly raised it. Going forward from here in 2025, they need to be held to account for the consequences of their own policies.
Reform should.
The big lie of Brexit, in my view, needs to be exposed because they promised us that it would control immigration. It's done the opposite. It's weakened control of immigration because it's weakened those relationships with our neighbours that are absolutely critical to having an orderly system. But at the same time, it's changed the nature of migration. So they've been issuing more and more visas for people coming from further afield, staying permanently, whereas with free movement, it would have been somebody would come for a few years and then go back. So absolutely, I have confidence in what Yvette is doing. It's going to be hard. It was just interesting, if I could just say, listening to the Shadow Home Secretary about the Rwanda scheme. If they were so confident in it, I think they would have delayed the general election, wouldn't they, to when the first planes took off. But it's noticeable that they didn't do that because they know it was a colossal failure and waste of money. And they, like with everything else, they weren't prepared to kind of own any of their issues. They cut and run. And just to hear all of that just now was just, you know,
really wound you up, hasn't it?
It has, because they're just not. There's no humility there in saying yes, we failed. We need to learn the lessons. I didn't hear that from the Shadow Home Secretary.
Following this, Richard Tice said this and called him out for his lies. He said, Burnham is not thick, so being deliberately disingenuous. Tories were in government, not reform. Tories made choice to open borders. It is easy as sovereign nation to control visa numbers, which cannot do with freedom of movement. This is how other people reacted. One user said, out of all the Labour lot, I liked Andy Burnham. He seemed to genuinely care about ordinary people. But he supports this changed Labour, who quite clearly don't care about how many British people are feeling at the present time. He's following the new Labour script to demonise Reform UK. Dave said, typical Andy Burnham. That political career should have finished after mid-staffs. Robert said, Labour are going to use the disaster they have created by their budget as an excuse to return to the EU. Mark my words, this is intentional. Bob said, any excuse to get us back in the EU. It's like watching propaganda every day. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. The news that 20,000 illegal migrants have arrived in the UK since Labour took power is hardly a surprise. The government seems to have no real strategy to stop it. In fact, it continues to roll out the red carpet for new unauthorised arrivals, offering a tempting package of incentives: free hotel accommodation, travel passes, cash allowances, and, crucially, the near certainty of permanent settlement in Britain, complete with full access to our social services and welfare system. This is all available to people who have never contributed a penny to the system they now benefit from. The financial costs of asylum migration are finally becoming clear, with research from countries like Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands revealing the scale of the burden. A landmark study last year by economists at the University of Amsterdam, Borderless Welfare State, Van der Beek et al., found that the lifetime net cost of certain categories of asylum migration could exceed €620,000 per person. If the situation in the UK is similar, the 20,000 recent illegal arrivals could saddle our society with billions in future costs. a staggering prospect for a nation already grappling with ballooning public sector deficits and an ever-expanding national debt. The politicians in power, the Labour Party and the Tories, are utterly reckless, failing in their duty to protect social cohesion or safeguard national unity. Both parties have shown time and again that they are not serious about reducing immigration or securing our borders. Their record speaks for itself. Net migration has surged to a jaw-dropping 906,000 by June 2023. Instead of taking meaningful action, they offer up publicity stunts like the Rwanda scheme or empty slogans like "Smash the gangs." But such gimmicks do nothing to alleviate the real fears of local communities who watch as unvetted young men, many from conflict-ridden regions, arrive unexpectedly, only to be placed in hostels and hotels in their towns. These communities feel powerless, overlooked, and disrespected. The truth is, the British ruling class was never prepared to fully embrace the opportunities offered by Brexit. After 2016, they could have taken steps to secure our borders and protect our people by leaving behind the outdated post-war refugee conventions and the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR. They could have implemented offshore processing in British territories like Ascension Island, as Australia has done so effectively. In such a scenario, the flow of illegal migration would have stopped almost overnight, but our government lacks the political will and the courage to act decisively. The public will no doubt deliver its judgment at the next election. In the meantime, the tide of illegal migration will continue to rise, and with it, the social and economic costs will spiral. The impact on our society will be profound. Lastly, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have sparked backlash with their latest Christmas card, which notably omits the word Christmas. Instead, the card reads, "We wish you a very happy holiday season and a joyful new year," accompanied by photos from the couple's royal tours in Nigeria, Colombia, and Prince Harry's solo trip to Lesotho. The standout feature is a new picture of their children, Archie, 5, and Lilibet, 3. Many royal fans were outraged by the omission of Christmas, with some calling it offensive to Christians and very American. One critic wrote, "Why bother sending a card if it's not a Christmas card?" Others compared it to a promotional brochure rather than a festive greeting, with one saying it felt like virtue signaling. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British political content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.